So it's the start of our virtual open day at Liverpool Hope University for the Department of Geography and Environmental Science. Welcome to all and those of you who have joined our virtual open day. I'm glad you come along. I hope you have a great experience. It's obviously a little bit strange with this online experience. So we're going to do our best today to give you a flavour of what it's like to be a student in the Department of Geography and Environmental Science. I'm going to explain the different courses that we have in our department. My name's Reverend Paul Rooney. I'm the head of department. So I'll be giving you a presentation today. But rather than just listening to me waffling on for 40 minutes or so, which is not a great experience for anyone, including myself, we've got some great people along today who are going to be contributing. We've got two of my colleagues and one of our senior students from the department. So I'll start first of all with our student, Gemma. Gemma is, to introduce herself, Gemma is a final year student with us. Gemma, do you want to say hello and just briefly introduce yourself and say where you're up to with your course, etc. Gemma.
So yeah, I'm a final tourism management student, so I've just finished and pandemic has ruined my life. But yeah, that's all grand. So I took part in the Berlin field trip and Malta. I've just got back from Malta in February, so thank God that didn't ruin anything. So that was great, and basically I love tourism. So I had industry experience for my lectures and research experience, so I felt like I had the best of both worlds. So it was great. I think it's the best course to join.
Well, that's quite a strong start for our open day. Thanks very much there, Gemma. That's super. We'll bring Gemma back in at various points during the presentation, and you can tell us a little bit more about the student experience of learning and research and our teaching and fieldwork throughout the presentation. We'll bring you in at various points. We've got two of my colleagues here today who are involved with the department. First of all, we've got Dr. Ashley Lyons. Ashley is one of on our science end of the department. Do you want to just say hello and a very quick introduction, Ashley, please?
Hi, I'm Ash. A bit of a rogue in the department. I'm actually a biologist. My main subject is landscape ecology, so I teach on the environmental science side of the course.
Fabulous, yeah. So Ash is on our science end of our provision, and not that we're miles apart from each other because we all get on well and we integrate. At the other side, on the human side of our department, and he is a human being, is
it's rumours.
is Steve Fowler, who's Steve's got a substantial experience in regeneration. But let Steve introduce himself. Steve.
Morning, everyone. So yeah, Steve Fowler. I lecture on tourism and tourism management degree courses. So I've been lecturing Gemma for the last 3 years and taking her on field trips. Yeah, as Paul said, I came from 20 years in industry. Joined Hope 6 years ago. So I've kind of got a mix of academia and a mix of industry experience. Tourism is really important.
Great, thanks, Steve. Okay, so we've got four of us, you might say four panelists today to tell you a little bit about our department. What we're going to do with this presentation, we're going to try and make it as conversational as possible. We're going to use a presentation. First of all, I'll bring my colleagues and Gemma in as our student colleague to talk about the presentation as we go through. What we aim to do with this presentation is to tell you a little bit about the life of the department and the life at Liverpool Hope University. You can go to our website, you can get all the detail of our curriculum, the content of the courses that we offer. You can download all of that. But what we're trying to do with this presentation is give you a sense of what it's like to be at Liverpool Hope University. That's what we're aiming to do. Okay, So with that, we'll start, and I'm going to screen share now and go through a little presentation, which will tell you a little bit about the department. I'll stop and start it as we go through. So first of all, here we are, the Department of Geography and Environmental Science. That's the name of the department, but just give me a moment. You can see here with our undergraduate courses that we offer, it's much more than just geography and environmental science. Geography is our academic spine in the department. But at the science end, we have the environmental courses and the physical courses, physical geography, environmental science, environmental geography. But then leaning the other way, equally important, we have courses such as the straight geography degree, which includes some human geography, but also tourism and tourism management. So there's quite a diversity of courses in our department, ranging from the human side of the subject to the other side, which is with our sciences. So there we go, and you can find out details for all of these courses on the Hope website and download the curriculum information and see what's in each of them, and I advise you to do that. Most of you will be thinking about, I imagine, entry through UCAS, coming through direct entry into first year of the degree. If you don't quite make that, you can take our degree with a foundation year, which is an extra a year before your degree. And the content of that is everyone does something called enhanced learning, which is about being a better learner, particularly at university. It's very different being at university from college or school. You would take a 30 credit block in the green block, the 30 credit block there, and you would also take something out of the 30 credit block environmental health sciences if you want to do something in our department. So you can do that, a degree with foundation year 3+1 model. If you're thinking about foundation year, you can, and wanting to do tourism management, we advise you to take the business option, which you can see is in the green block. And if you're going to take one of our other degrees, which is one of those you can see in red, we advise you to, you have to take one of the ones in the environmental health science block, which is in the blue thing there. But we can advise you on that. The point is that if you're going to look for a degree entry through A-levels or BTEC or similar, directly into the first year of the degree, no problem. If you don't quite make it, consider our foundation year, and then you go into the first year of the degree. Okay, now what we're about, this is where we're trying to talk about things with our department, which we can't really capture in the website terribly effectively. It's best to come and meet us, right, and talk to us, even if it's through this virtual open day. So one of the things that you'll find, I'm sure this is across all university departments, but certainly in our department, is that we have a great enthusiasm for what we teach. Tutors have devoted their lives to these topics, and so of course we're really enthusiastic. And because they've devoted their lives to this, they have a great expertise in the subject area. And what's important there is that we're not selfish. We're there to try and communicate our expertise, particularly through our research, this creation of new knowledge, of new understanding of the interesting world around us. And then we want to share that. Academics share that through conference presentations, writing papers in journals, articles, writing books, but also communicating our research through our teaching and sharing this new knowledge with our students. And that's a big thing that differentiates between college and school and coming to university. Ash, do you want to say something about that?
Yeah, so I think if you're thinking about the differences between school and college and university, we're not provided a curriculum by the government, but rather we set what you are to learn, and those things are based on our research. So we, as academics, our whole job isn't just teaching. Part of our job is to go out and conduct some research. We go out and conduct that research, we discover new knowledge, and we pass that on to students, and that's the role of a university. So the things that you're being taught are generally the most up-to-date things within any subject. And because we're delivering things that are our research areas, our interests, then we're more enthusiastic than something that's disconnected, because it is our subject and we want you to enjoy and understand our subject too.
Okay, great. Thanks very much. We've got some questions coming already, but we'll just take those at the end. We're not going to ignore them. We'll just take that question at the end if you don't mind. Thanks, Ash. The next point that we're going to make, after thinking about our research and expertise, is about treating students as individuals. I did my first degree at 18, back now it's now Liverpool Hope, many years ago. I'm just approaching my 54th birthday, so you can see I'm an old fossil now. But treating students as an individual is a thing that's been in this department for decades. It's really, really important. I was treated as an individual as a student, and we think that carries on now. But let's just hear from Gemma and Steve on that point. Could you just make, about treating students as individuals? Gemma first, perhaps, and then Steve.
So yeah, I think in uni, because it's so big, everyone thinks that you're just going to get lost, but the lecturers actually take time out to know your name, and they have office hours, which I think is great. So if you're struggling with a piece of work, you can go to a lecturer's office and just say, listen, can you help me with this? And they will spend like as long as you need to help you with work, which is great, because I'm not sure many unis actually have office hours. So that's another plus. So every lecturer in our department actually knows my name, because everyone takes the time out to actually learn about what you're doing, what you're studying for your dissertation. And if they can help you in any way, they actually take the time out to help you.
And Gemma, you said that the tutors all know you by name, but you also know the tutors by name. We don't stand on ceremony, do we, in our department?
No, it's not like you have to say, oh, hello, Dr. such and such. It's like being friends, really. You're just so casual with each other.
Yeah. Even though people have different qualifications and titles, there's that close relationship with students, isn't there? So Steve, you're all of our tutors work well with the students, but you're one of the tutors that needs quite a lot of chairs in your office, really, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say I spend a lot of time with my students. Jem will probably tell you that. I run a fairly, as do a lot of the staff, fairly open door policy. If we're in our offices and we've got the time, then the door's open. So that's kind of how we operate. I do like to think I know all my students by name after the first couple of weeks. Certainly after a month, if not the first couple of weeks. We are pretty hands-on. We do like to offer a lot of support. It's something we take pride in. That's what I had when I was at uni. Do you remember my tutors? They were great. They were similar open door policy. And as I'm a similar age to Paul, nearly. I'm going to say nearly, not quite. I still remember how good that was and how useful that was. So I try and replicate the same. Got the scars to prove it. I've had Gemma in my office a lot this year for a dissertation, along with others. So yeah, quite happy to do that.
Great. So, okay, I'll go back to the presentation. So I think you can hear from various quarters there that we're trying to treat students as individuals. What's really important there is there's a long-standing ethos of student support. When we say long-standing, I'm now the head of department, but I can go back to being a student at 18 and I can say, this is nothing new. It's not a flash in the pan. This is part of the ethos, the philosophy of Liverpool Hope and our department. And because of all of that, what you will find is that there's a friendly and collegial environment. That means it's kind of like family-like. There's an identity to the place. And there's a good atmosphere there. It's a great place to spend time. Now, importantly, one of the things right across our department, not just from the sciences through to the human end of the human end to the sciences, is that we have a deep, what we call a deep learning approach. That sounds pretty fancy, but what that means is that we place particular emphasis on students taking a lead on their learning through that practical, hands-on, embodied, real life experience, and that's done in a number of ways, which we'll talk about in a minute. But particularly things like our field work in the department. We've got some really great places locally, nationally, and internationally. There's a lot of practical work in our courses, whether that's in the sciences, in a laboratory, science laboratory, or a computer lab, or whether it's a practical exercise of some kind. And then we also have this thing called experiential learning in the second year, where you go off and you actually work with an employer or so. I'll tell you more about that in a moment. So there's our values as a department. Now, a department is about people. We've got a beautiful campuses. You can see our building behind us there. It's a listed building, a historic building. The campuses are beautifully landscaped and gardened. We've got wonderful campus in North Wales and Snowdonia National Park that we use. We've got some really state-of-the-art, really great facilities, and there's more investment coming for our department in this. But with all those material things, that's great, it's really good. But a department is people. A department is human beings, the students and the staff and the students. That's what makes a department. That's what makes a university. And so these are your core tutors and people who support you in the department. You can see there's a little picture on the bottom right-hand side, which is separate. It's not because we don't like that person, it's just a new person who's joining us formally on the 1st of September, Dr. Alessandra Lotteri. She's joining us, so we couldn't get her together. But what we need, it's difficult to get all the students together in one place, but that picture should be a picture of staff and students and staff. Because that's our department. That's what makes the department. So, a little bit more about us. Well, one of the university's longest standing and experienced departments. The department's been around for decades in one form or the other since, well, as long as I've lived. That's how long standing it is. So it's a long established department, and the teaching experience and the university experience in that with the tutors is outstanding. And we're proud to say that we're university teachers. We're not school teachers. We're not college teachers. We're university teachers. University teachers that create new knowledge through research and then share it. That's a key tenet, a key approach for us as a department. We obviously range from the sciences to the human end of things, with geography as our spine. But within that, we've got a wide range of interests and specialisms, and we overlap the interests. And every one of us are active researchers creating that. Now, that's all well and good, but we get weighed and measured by all these things with the government and various other bodies. And one of the key ways that we get weighed and measured now, all universities and all departments get this, is something called the National Student Survey. Basically what this is at the end of the degree, Gemma will have filled this in this year. Basically the government commission a body, and they basically say to the students, well, how was it for you in your course? We break it down to a number of questions. And I have to say, there's little ups and downs, but generally we do really well. And that means that as a whole, our students rate us highly in this satisfaction survey. And importantly, they're not just generally satisfied students or highly satisfied students. Our students enjoy success. That success is measured in a number of ways, not just in degree outcomes, but in terms of and not just in terms of employability, which again we get measured on, and we do fantastically well on them. I'm going to present some data in a moment. But our students are great graduates, great members of society. Okay. Now, when you look at the at our courses online, you'll see they're a little bit different from other universities. Other universities, you'll see courses. I'll just flick this off for a moment. You'll see courses on, if you're doing geography, for instance, you might do a module on rivers, or in tourism, you might do a module on ecotourism or dark tourism. In environmental science, you might do a module on upland grassland ecology. Okay. Now, we don't have modules, we don't have little units, right? We have what we call an integrated curriculum. So they're year-long courses, and that means that everything's much more joined up, right? And now, if you think of it from a world view, from the environmental geography and tourism view, we recognize that everything in the world is connected, and it makes more sense to take this connected approach to our curriculum. And that's quite different from most of the universities in Britain, apart from places like perhaps Oxford, Cambridge, Durham. But most universities are modular. We don't believe in that undergraduate approach. We realize the world's complex and we join things together. Okay. Now, there's Ash just mentioned about research. Ash, could you just tell us, you mentioned before about the role of research and differentiating between college, school and university. Just tell us very briefly, how important is research in your role as a university tutor, please?
It's arguably the most important part, and it's arguably one of the most important things for society overall. So, if we stagnate and don't discover anything new, then we can never progress. We can never find solutions to things like flooding or disease even. And in terms of delivering a modern curriculum and something that's up to date, it's really vitally important as well, so that students are leaving university with the most up-to-date knowledge, so that they're equipped then to go on to either go get a job or to further study, so that they're at basically the forefront of what people know, what we know about our subject.
Fab, thanks very much, Ash. So there you've heard from someone who's an active researcher, right? And that applies right across the department for us. Now, if we look at our results on this, every few years, the government body weigh and measure universities on how good their research is. We're about to go through that exercise again. It's called the REF. It's been delayed because of the COVID, but last time it was done was 2014, and we did really well. All the indicators for this time, all the way we're measuring it, is our department is going to do fantastically well, but let's see how it pans out. We've really, really pushed the research agenda on, and that you might think, well, why is that important to me as a student? Well, just listen to what Ash has just said, right? This is the underlying thing about university, but the creation of new knowledge, right? And then importantly, in the exercise how they weigh and measure us now, it's also what they call impact, which means sharing it and making it useful, right, to society as a whole. And we do really well on that. Okay, now that's an important background thing for coming to university, but let's have a look at some of these deep learning things now. I particularly want to start off with fieldwork, because it's a theme in our department. Fieldwork goes across all years in all courses in our department. So in the first year, we have residential trips to North Wales, to our own field centre in North Wales, plus a lot of residential, non-residential local trips, which are low carbon. We use public transport whenever possible. Second year, there's again lots of non-residential fieldwork, again trying to be low carbon as much as possible, using great public transport, for instance trips to the second coast, your Mersey rail trains every 15 minutes. Plus, we'll tell you more about this in a moment. For some of the students in the department, there's a international trip to Berlin. And then in the final year, again, there's non-residential trips, plus a really important thing that we have for students in the final year is a trip to Malta. So we're going to tell you a little bit about this fieldwork now. Okay, the local fieldwork, Liverpool's a fantastic place to do local fieldwork. And you've got from the urban environments, which you can see in the top left-hand corner, we've got the cityscape. There's the famous Liver buildings. Right? So wonderful urban environments. And yet on the right, you can see students out on the sand dunes of the second coast to the north of Liverpool, the largest area of open sand dunes in England. I used to manage it years ago. So one of the wildest and most natural landscapes in England, contrasting with the urban landscapes. So there's some of our students out on fieldwork. Fieldwork, sometimes you have to get a bit wet and windy, but there's also some of our students out on fieldwork in our campus, in our campus doing surveys and things out there. I don't know if you want to just say something, Steve, quickly about the local fieldwork.
Yeah, we as a department use Liverpool a lot. It's a very good example, for instance, of a city that's regenerated itself on the back of tourism. Tourism has been core and central to Liverpool's renaissance. So from the mid-1980s, Liverpool has adapted from coming from an industrial decline, the decline of the docks, to becoming now fifth, sixth most visited destination in the UK. Internationally significant, some huge brands, the Tate, the Beatles, sports club, football clubs in particular. We use Liverpool as an example of how to do that, how that has happened, why that has happened, what's driven it, and how tourism can create so many jobs in an area that needs them desperately. It's a theme that we expand into the second and third years in terms of looking at tourism globally and how it's doing a similar job in other parts of the world. Yeah, Liverpool is a great case study. First week of term, second week of term, we take the first years on a guided tour round the city centre, bit of a getting to know it and a bit of a putting some feelers out for what's to come on the course. Most people get quite a bit out of that.
Thank you, Steve. Also in the first year, we take, and actually throughout the course as well, but in the first year we take very early on, we take students to our own field centre that we own. Very unusual for a university to own such a field centre. And you can see a picture of this. This is the main hall here. It's called Plascardium. It's in Snowdonia National Park. It's surrounded by some of the most biodiverse woodlands in Europe. It's dripping with biodiversity. It's like Europe's equivalent to a tropical rainforest. It's on the Maldac estuary, so if you're looking out of the windows here, you can see the Maldac estuary. Yes, as you can see it, the Maldac with the bridge across it near Barmouth. Also, it overlooks, from these windows, it overlooks Cadair Idris, which is a national nature reserve, a mountain range. And then this area is where Charles Darwin, one of the world's greatest scientists, did his initial training, and then later in life he came back after he'd been around the world, been to on his voyage of discovery in the Beagle. He came back and lived for a while, actually in Plascardium, and wrote a lot there. And there's some my interest in sand dunes, and then there's some fantastic sand dunes and coastal environments right on this area. Ash, do you want to just tell us a little bit about the value of the environmental value of Plascardium, and maybe Gemma can just give us a little bit about the experience of the importance of fieldwork in first year, just briefly, Ash.
Yeah, so Plascardium, certainly on the ecology side, we take first year students as well as master's students, and it really is a fabulous site to an introduction to biodiversity, and then advanced study. There's a whole range of different animals and plants there. There's some very rare bat species there that have the most fabulous calls, so we get to see some really great stuff. It's also a really excellent place for a game of hide and seek.
It is actually. It's great ground. Thanks, Ash. Fabulous. Yeah, so it's fun as well. It's really great. Gemma, do you want to tell us about, can you think back 3 years, that experience of going to Plascardian in their first weeks with a whole department, all the tourism students, all the geography students, all the environmentalists, all together? What was that? What was the benefits of that? Yes.
Oh, it feels like yesterday, so it does. Well, I thought it was really beneficial because if you think about it, for me doing tourism, I'm going to have to talk to different people in my job later in life anyway. So it was great to get to know different people and ask people different questions. And it got like the talking side of it together, so everyone knew everyone's skills. And throughout the years, if you were able to ask someone different questions to benefit your skills and learn more, it was great, really.
So there's a positive experience from our students every year, and we've been going there. I went there even as a student when I was 18, so we've been going there for decades. And there's a picture of our students on the beach, local beach at Barmouth, Abermore, and they're having a great time in Plascardian. That brings people together. But it's a great place for students to study from tourism, geography, and the environmental subjects as well. Okay, there's our field centre and some of our first year and other trips. We also go with one of our 2 major international field trips, and the first one is to Berlin. I was privileged to assist Steve just last November, taking students there. Brilliant trip. Steve, do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And I've got another slide to come up after this, as you know.
Yeah, the trip to Berlin is a second-year trip for all the tourism students and a cohort of geography students as well. So we go to look at, in a similar way to the trajectory of Liverpool, coming from a negative past. Berlin was obviously front and centre in World War II. Then it was split in half during the Cold War until 1989, when the Berlin Wall came down. Berlin, in a very short period of time, has come from there to the 3rd most visited city in Europe now. A lot of how it's done that is on the back of tourism. It is a capital city, obviously, but a lot of that is on the back of tourism development and on the back of using its history and its dark tourism, which Paul referred to earlier, its Cold War past, its World War II past, to create product and create its future. So we go with a cohort of tourism and geography students to get under the skin of, again, how Berlin has managed to do that. The pros and cons of that, there's good and bad. Lots of Berliners are seeing the influx of tourists creating price rises for property, Airbnb coming into Berlin in large numbers, taking property off the market for locals and so on. So we look at some of those tensions, some of those pressures. They're not unique to Berlin. Tourism is doing that in a lot of places. So we're getting under the skin of a destination that's risen quickly. And again, there's research involved on this and an assessment attached to that when we get back.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. Gemma, do you want to, I'll flick to the next slide with pictures of students at the famous Brandenburg Gate, which was the demarcation line, the line between democratic West Berlin and the Soviet communist socialist East Berlin. Do you want to tell us a little bit about just briefly about your experience of the Berlin trip and what you got answered it, please, Gemma?
Yeah, for me, I would have never have thought of going to Berlin, but then when we actually got there, it was so amazing. And the assignment at the end, I don't think I could have wrote it as well if I had have not saw it firsthand. So being able to gain the firsthand experience of actually being in the destination and seeing like the history of it, it really helped a lot, like to write my assignment in the end.
So that's what we call deep learning, isn't it? Where you're just getting into it and you really do understand it. That's the value of it. Great. Okay, Jem, thanks very much. If we move on, the other major international trip that we have is to a small island in the Mediterranean called Malta. This is a trip I established about 20 years ago for the department. We've just had our first PhD completed on Malta, and majority of our staff in one way or the other are involved in research in Malta. But I'm going to hand over to my colleague Ash now, who just for the last couple of years since she joined us has been going to Malta. And Ash, would you tell us a little bit about the Malta trip, please? And then again, I'll bring Gemma in at the end just to tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we take all of our third year students to Malta. So regardless of what course you're on, you come along on that trip. And as an island in the middle of the Mediterranean, it offers something for all of us. So it's really important as a tourism destination. There's lots of geological features, and the physical features of the island are useful for the geographers. And in terms of from an ecological point of view, it's awful, which is fabulous to study as an environmental scientist. So there's huge pressures from a really, really large population in terms of its island size. There's tourists influx the island, there's production of different things, and all of those different aspects have a huge impact on biodiversity on the island. So we're able as environmental scientists to go and discover something about that. So we take sort of a split approach to the week. So we're usually there for a full week. First half of the week, we'll go and we'll do some trips so that as students you get to know the island, and the second half of the week you've already come up with a research project idea, and then it's your turn to go and conduct some research to learn what you can about Malta. So some of the trips that we go on, so the top right hand corner there, that's the Malta National Aquarium, and it's a chance for us to see, well, it's a tourist destination first off, but a chance for us to see the marine environment and some conservation efforts that are ongoing within Malta. The picture just below that is a vineyard tour. So wine production is becoming a big thing on Malta, so of course it would be wrong not to go along on a vineyard tour and have a taste of some wine, and only the highest standards for our students, so we go to the most luxurious one on the island. The top left is a trip to Gozo. So Malta doesn't exist as a single island, but it's an archipelago. One of those islands is called Gozo. And again, this was really important as a tourist destination. If you see on that picture, the rock in the background was called the Azure Window. 3 days after this photograph was taken, that actually collapsed. It was nothing to do with us, but it did. And that's had, again, impacts on tourism. People will come to this rock just to see the Azure Window. It was featured on Game of Thrones, so it really was an attraction. So the loss of that has altered tourism in the area. In the bottom left picture there is one of the national nature reserves. It's actually an Natura 2000 site, so it's really important on an international scale for biodiversity, and it's one of the few wild places in Malta. So we take a trip there, have a look around. And then the bottom right picture is some students showing their love.
Great, Ash. Thanks very much. Gemma, do you want to tell us a little bit about your experience in Malta and you've done all the big trips in our department?
Yeah, for me it really benefited being able to actually see it again and then writing about it. And then in Malta as well, we actually had to do field work, so we had to go and ask strangers to answer questionnaires. It sounds so nerve-wracking, but it actually really benefited me, because in the future I'll be able to go to different places and just normally ask people to fill in questionnaires, and I'll be prepared to do that through the actual research and stuff that I've done in Malta, so it was really beneficial.
So thanks, Gemma. That's again what we call this deep learning approach, where you're actually going out and doing it, experiencing it, conducting your own investigations, gathering data yourself, and then you've grown in confidence as well, haven't you, by the sounds of it, over the course, yeah?
Yeah, I would say so. From Safcardian days up until Malta, it's a broad change.
Great. Well, this again is what we're talking about producing rounded graduates and growing as a whole person. Great stuff. Okay, now one of the things that we're going to introduce, if you sign up for Liverpool Hope now, is in your second year, if you're a single honours student, in other words, if you're doing one of our subjects that's 100% in our department, you'll have the opportunity, well, you will do a project-based study block, which we call experiential learning. And one way of thinking about this is it's kind of like a work placement or a block of work-based learning. It gets you out there. It's another development of this deep learning approach. It'll enhance employability. It'll enhance the research skills of students. It could be field-based. It could be out in the field with someone like Ash, assisting her with research, or maybe working with a wildlife trust. It could be in and around Liverpool, or it could be away somewhere. It could be working with a big corporate body, perhaps in tourism or in planning or in regeneration, anything like that. Or you could undertake what we call a problem-based task for a client. So it could be working with tutors in the university or outside bodies. And the idea is you devote time and you develop your academic skills within a real world context, trying to work out to a brief with a client and develop your academic skills, but also apply them to a real world situation, which will enhance your employability. So that's a really important new development in our course. Now, just quickly, I'm going to flick through a few slides now at this point, because a number of our courses have got professional accreditations. The BSc Geography benefits from the professional accreditation from the Royal Geographical Society. All these professional accreditations are marks that not only is it valid and recognised academically, but these external professional bodies are saying, this is a really useful, powerful degree, and it'll benefit not just you, but you as a graduate will benefit society. Our BSc Environmental Science, as is our MSc, Master of Science in Ecology and Environmental Management, is accredited by the Chartered Institute of Ecology and Environmental Management. Again, just like the RGS, the Royal Geographical Society, it's an august body for the environment, about 6,000 members. So again, that's an important professional accreditation. And for our tourism provision, we're a member of the ATHE, the Association for Tourism and Higher Education. And this is a leading body to represent universities that are the key leading providers of tourism education. So we're part of that as well. In the next year, we'll be getting a whole raft of other professional accreditations for the rest of our provision. So watch this space, it's only going to get better. Why do we do all this? Right, well, the reason why we're doing this is because we are proud university teachers who are interested in promoting student success. And one of the ways that that's measured is through degree awards. And over the last 5 years, the majority of our students get a 2-1 or above. You can see the figures there. Geography, particularly environmental science students, particularly strong. Gemma's going to be coming through in the 2020 cohort here. But our students get good degrees. Now, that doesn't mean that we give them away. That doesn't mean that it's easy to get it. We challenge you, we stretch you. It's hard work. We make no bones about that. It benefits our students. Our students come out with good degree awards. Do you want to do Gemma or Ash, Steve? Do you want to chip in on that one? Steve?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say, yeah, we put people through their paces, but then that's what a degree is. It's not meant to be a walk in the park. It's very different than school or college because you're doing a lot of learning for yourself. You have a lot of spare time to yourself. They'll often read, research, do assessments, etc., etc. So it is a different experience, but I think since I've been at Hope, certainly I've seen good results from our students every year.
Gemma,
this year looks no different at all.
That's right, we're on the same track. Gemma, have we challenged you throughout the degree?
Well, that you could say that.
Good, in a nice way, of course. Yeah. Yeah. You do get challenged in a good way, don't you, to push on with your learning. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can tell like the lecturers want the best for you, so they just push you because they know that you can do it.
Yeah, great. Actually, anything, I think you've mentioned this in a way, but a few words.
Yeah, university isn't easy, but it sort of is a little bit easier than, well, I think A-levels, because you've chosen the subject that you want to study, and you know you're doing something that you've got an interest in. So I think it's a really rewarding thing to do, academically speaking, but also socially as well. I think it's fabulous
Right.
experience overall.
Well, with that word, Ash, you just stole the thunder there, because student success. If we look at those, well, one measure is in the degree results, but it really is fabulous. There we go at the bottom. So, and we're really, really pleased that students do well. And we can come up with saying, we can ask our students. There's one of our recent graduates, Zoe Hayes, about her field trip to Malta. I think Gemma's echoed those sentiments. So we could ask many of our students and come back with very, very similar messages, each one of them. Okay, I said we're moving to a close now, but I'm going to flick through some data right now, just to say, this is because so far what we've said is our opinion and what we think, right? And you've heard from our students, you've heard from our tutors, but we get weighed and measured by outside bodies. Just hot off the press is the June 2020 Complete University Guide. And you can see there that with our environmental biological courses and geography, they were rated as the first and the number one in the UK of all courses for graduate employability. That's fabulous, we're using that word again. And if we looked at particularly geography and environmental science, we're top 4 in Northwest England. That's fantastic. That's ahead of some of our much, by size, larger competitors. So, we're really, really doing well here as a department. This is just one measure, though, the Complete University Guide. The other one is the other one would be the National Student Survey. I told you a little bit about that. This is where students, finally, students get asked, well, how was it for you? With a whole bunch of questions. We consistently do really well in that. So that means that our students are satisfied, right? And often they're really highly satisfied. One of the other measures is the Guardian, the newspaper, the Guardian League tables, the big national ones. The latest results from that show that as our university is ranked in the top 3 in the Northwest region. You can see it ahead of our regional competitors. So again, that's really strong. That's an independent measure. You can see the data there. You can look all this up online if you're that way inclined yourself. You can see the data there. And if we look again just at geography and environmental studies, I'm not ignoring tourism, there's only so much we can put in the presentation. There were 81 institutions ranked in this category, and geography and environmental studies, I hope, was ranked 3rd in the Northwest, right? So that's even better than the Complete University Guide. So again, we're ahead of our regional competitors. If we look at the Times, which is the other big one, the 2020 tables are not out yet for the Times, so last year's ones, which are current now, again, we're 3rd in the Northwest. We're doing really well. And you might notice down there, we're number 1 for graduate prospects, right? And the Complete University Guide also ranks us there. Our students are successful. That's the point. Well, all this is only possible because of the people, right? I'll go back to what I said at the start. The departments, we've got great facilities, beautifully landscaped gardens and campuses, wonderful buildings, big investments coming our way into our departments in the next few years from the university. You know, it's an exciting time to join us. But a department in a university is people, and it's the people that count. And again, I'm just going to flick up to give you an idea of the tutors. There's some of the people here in the department, just what they get up to, and I'm just going to flick through very quickly. Jennifer Clear, Dr. Jennifer Clear, interested in environmental change. She's got a worldwide experience from the United States and in Europe, is interested in environmental change. Dr. Crevin Crawford, a physical geographer by background and training, a sedimentologist, glacial sedimentologist, now actually very interested also in what's called geotourism. So it's a geographer working with the tourism specialists. Steve, you've met already. Steve's got fantastic professional experience, decades of high-level professional experience, and now applying that experience and generously sharing that with our students. Is one of his close colleagues, Dr. Victoria Kennedy, who's also a tourism specialist, particularly in seaside work, but is also working alongside with Kevin on Malta projects. Our new colleague, Dr. Alessandro Lottelli, who's a physical geographer, but also does a lot of stuff with social science stuff, working with people and how they react to environmental hazards and change. And Ash, you've already met, and there's a picture of Ash in a natural environment. Ash, this is where you're most comfortable, isn't it?
Yeah, indoors doesn't suit me.
we
Yeah,
have to
stick me up a mountain.
we have to put Ash out every now and again. We just have to keep her healthy to put her outside every now and again. So there's Ash, a serial field worker with her specialisms. There's myself. Apart from being the head of department, my primary interest is in coastal management and coastal sand dunes. There are a number of big research projects at the moment, 3 of them in coastal dunes, but also one using geographical information systems and social surveys, looking at ministry in the church, like a geographical approach to it. But in the end, it's about students. And it's student success that we're really interested in. That's our primary focus. All roads lead to that through our research, through our learning, through our teaching. And student success is measured in more than just degree results, which our students do well in, more than just employability, which our students do really well in. Our student success is about us turning out rounded graduates who are good members of society. That's what we do. That's what we do well. So there's our presentation. We've got a few minutes left now. If we've got any questions, I'll just say if you do want to get in contact with us, if you just put this up, if you can. Whoops, I think they've shared the wrong screen. That's a schoolboy error there. There we go. So email us on Geography at Hope. It doesn't matter what course you're doing, just email us on Geography at Hope. It all comes to the same place. If you've got any questions beyond this, and maybe you want to have a one-to-one with some of our tutors, that's great. We can set that up. But let's take some questions now. If Robin has got if it's to unmute. And just tell us about any questions that may have come through, Robin, please.
Hi, Paul. At the minute, we haven't got any questions, so just to remind everyone in the room that this is your opportunity to ask any questions that you might have to our academics and to our fabulous student, Gemma. Of course, Paul has given you those options to email us. So you can either email the academics directly through the geography email, or for anything recruitment based or any requirements in terms of your application, please do email enquiry@hope.ac.uk. So we will hang on a couple of moments. We have got 5 minutes until the end of the session, just for those questions to come in.
There we go. There's a question there. How rare is the integrated curriculum approach that you use? Yeah, that's a good question. Okay. Yes, Rare doesn't mean that it's odd or bad. Rare means that it's special. If you look at some of the ways that actually most universities, I think all the modular course approach was only kind of invented for universities in the 1970s or so, right? So it hasn't been around that long, right? It's a relatively new approach to university teaching. And a lot of some of the longer established universities, the medieval universities, the prestigious universities didn't really ever adopt that approach. It was about 8-9 years ago, we stood back and looked at this modular approach and said, this doesn't work really for the type of learning, joined up, rounded learning that we want. And so in our sector, as a relatively, in our post-92 university, yeah, it's really unusual. When you apply to UCAS, you'll see, or go to other open days, they'll say, oh, you can choose options, and in this module or that module, you can choose this and the other. And yet we don't do that, but we join things up. So it is relatively unusual, but it isn't unusual if you went to the prestigious, really, where rather traditionally medieval prestigious universities. You'll see a similar approach there, particularly with small group learning, with one-to-one tutorials, very small group sizes, which goes with our integrated curriculum, because we try and have that close contact experience, and that goes with the deep learning approach. Gemma or Ash or Steve, do you want to say anything about your experience of that?
I would just back that up, really. I don't think you can study tourism without studying it in a fairly integrated manner. You've got to understand its relationship with the built environment, you've got to understand its relationship with the natural environment, you've got to understand its relationship with the societies, the destinations, the peoples that it impacts on, sometimes negatively, most times positively. You've got to understand all of that. So it has to be done in the round. Doing that in chunks, in modules, wouldn't probably provide that, to be quite honest.
Ash, you mentioned about Malta there, didn't you? Said about, as an example of integrating, you're on the trips there with our tourism students and our scientists and our geographers as well. On the trips, you say anything about that kind of way? But you all have their own specialisms, but then there's times where we need to come together.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely right. If you take, for example, there's a particular spot on Malta, a beach called Golden Bay, and historically, before tourism was a thing, it was massively important for leatherback turtles nesting. Since the tourist industry boomed in Malta, we lost this population of leatherback turtles. So studying sometimes things in a joined up way helps us not only understand what's happening in the natural world and how humans influence that, but how maybe we can mitigate human impact so that we can make sure natural processes can continue. And that's the an overall approach to learning something. We don't need to look at every individual aspect separately, but joining them together gives us a lot more understanding.
Super. Gemma, you got as you're a student who's experienced a full 3 years of the integrated curriculum. I mean, it's a bit of an unfair question to you to think about this, but how has that been for you, Gemma?
I think it's been better because I think you have to learn things to understand the one thing that you want to research. So you can learn tourism without learning like this and how businesses work with tourism to gain money and profit. So it all goes hand in hand. So it's really beneficial to learn different things rather than just one main thing.
Super, thanks. I think we now need to work on a bit of integrated internet there. You're breaking up slightly, but I think we got the key theme. Thank you very much, Gemma. That's super. I think we've got our students asked to participate in payment of fieldwork trips. Okay, so that's a really good question because cost is very important. And there are costs. We do put them on. If you look on the website, you can see the additional costs that we put in there. But But the first year trip to Plas Cardion, there's no cost for that, and that's 3 days residential full board. There's no cost for that. The day trips to the local venues, the only cost that you've got to do is to get there yourself on public transport, or you could walk, or you could cycle. That's so they're low cost. For other trips, we're acutely conscious to keep the day trips to keep costs down. So, for instance, I've been with Ash on field trips to the Lake District, so we'll hire minibuses and keep the cost down to students. So it might be £10 for the hire of the vehicle and fuel. Right, that would be about it, but we let you know that at the start of the year. For the big international trips, Berlin and Malta, the university makes a substantial subsidy available to them to offset the costs. So there is a small charge to students. Off the top of my head, I think Malta, Gemma, this year we charged you, was it 170 or something?
It was 150, so that's even
Oh,
better.
okay. All right, and for that you stayed in a 4-star hotel, bed and breakfast.
Yeah, and that was flights included, so I think that was very reasonable.
Flights, airport transfer, you got to get to Manchester Airport and back, but airport transfers, accommodation in a 4-star hotel. How many days was it? I can't remember. Was it
Monday to Saturday?
Monday to Saturday. Right, there we go. Josh has got it. So Monday to Saturday, 4-star hotel, bed and breakfast there, swimming pools in the hotel, etc. 150 quid, not bad. And I don't know, I put Steve on the spot for Berlin. I can't remember the Berlin.
Berlin is always a 6-day trip.
Yeah.
The most it's ever been is £120, and again, middle of Berlin. It's not a 4-star hotel, it's a very upmarket hostel. It's far more than a hostel that you might think of in the UK.
Very, very
will probably tell you.
Very nice.
The only other cost is getting around, again, that's flights, everything else included. And that goes from Liverpool, but you don't even have to get to Manchester.
That's right. So yes, there is a cost, but the costs are offset drastically. And you'll see the estimates, maximum estimates for us are on our website for each course. We're always trying to get best value. We're always trying to drive costs down. We're always trying to, wherever possible, make things free. Hope that answers the question. I think we're getting towards 12 o'clock there, aren't we, Robin?
Yes, we are. So if you'd like to just make your closing comments, Paul.
Okay, thanks, Robin. I'll just say, I'll pass over to my colleagues just a couple of lines each. We go round with Ash, Steve, and then Gemma, and then I'll close it. So a couple of comments from Ash, please.
Yeah, this is a really strange way to be conducting an open day, and we'd much rather be face-to-face, but of course safety comes first. So hopefully by the time you're making your decision to come along, we'll get to meet in person. What I'd say is it's really important that you make the right decision for you. So my advice is go to lots of open days, speak to lots of people. If you think of a question later on that maybe you didn't get the answer to today, send us an email. I'm more than happy to help with that. But hopefully, we'll get to meet you at a course, I hope, soon. So good luck with, the next steps.
Steve, a couple of words?
Just to echo that, it's really important that you pick the right course at the right place that's right for you. If you come to Liverpool, if you come to Hope, if you come to our department, you'll have a great time, you'll be looked after, and you'll leave with a good degree and have a lot of fun along the way, I hope. So, yeah.
And last but by no means least, one of our staff students, Gemma.
I think as a student, it's important to ask loads of questions. So even if you think of questions after, just bombard the email with all the questions that you have, and just make sure you ask enough questions that you're comfortable. And I hope we've inspired you to come to Hope.
Fabulous. Thanks, Gemma. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Ash. And most of all, thank you for attending our virtual open day. Come join Hope. It's a great place. Thanks very much, and stay safe. Hope to see you in about a year's time. Thank you. Bye-bye.